Well, hello there. Let's see if this actually works. This is my first video in earnest using SteamerYard. So it's got some interesting features. The ability to have banners, things play across the bottom. Let's see if I can show you how to do that. If I can do that, let's put the be safe but not too safe across the bottom. That's interesting. You could put up different topics that you might want to talk about. Topic 1, topic 2, or just your name, interestingly. There's ability to have the brand toggle. So right now I've got the, let's see, the softypapa brand showing. I could use the Going Alone brand. You can see up there just above the building there, although the positioning is a little strange. If I put it like that, then it'll be up in the dark. There you go. There we go. Ooh, I like that. The Going Alone just above the thing. And I can also see comments. What else I can do? Oh, let me change the that banner from the default to the minimal. There you go. I can also see comments. So if you leave a comment, I can push a button, and I believe that the comment will appear on the screen. So if anyone would like to be the first to leave a comment, please do so, and I will send it to the screen, and we'll see if it actually shows up. And part of the reason I'm using this software now is that I'm going to be doing a live with Molly, my friend from Japan, as if that needs any explaining. I'll be doing a live with Molly on Saturday, and Molly uses SteamerYard, so I wanted to use the same as well. Oh, great. So the GTA Alcoholic says, "Good evening, sir." Hello, GTA Alcoholic. EDD says, "Hey, Kurt." Hi there to you. Short Kid 614 says, "Night stream layout." Folks, how is the audio? Is the audio coming through okay? And let's see, I'm going to be, because the GTA Alcoholic was the first person to leave a comment, I'm going to double click on your comment. It should show on the screen. Look at, there it is. And it even shows you their avatar there. Look at that. This is pretty cool. DRT Maverick, hi Kurt. There he is. Short Kid 614, EDT. Sir Benjamin, hey Softy, excited for the bench? Yes, I am. I'm very excited. Oh, it's funny how you asked that question. I'm not at all awkward or nervous about me getting together with Molly. It's interesting, he did a video earlier and he was kind of talking about, he mentioned this, and he was kind of talking about whether he would, what he might, let me take the softypapa off. You don't need to see that. Does that make it go away? Oh, I know how to do that. Hold on. It's under banners. There we go. And I can take off the be safe, but not too safe, too. And he mentioned about topics, and he was like, well, we'll just talk. And I was like, yeah, we'll just talk. That's right. I imagine he and I have a lot of catching up to do, about the past. And he mentioned about that we might talk about what it is that brought us each away from America to Japan. I would really like to talk about that. I would also like to just have our talk the way Molly and I always did. The vast majority of the talks that Molly and I ever had, none of you ever saw. They were talks while he and I were working. We would go sit out in the smoking area. I knew where to find him. We'd go find each other out. I'd go find him out in the smoking area. We'd talk, or sitting in his car. We'd go take lunch at McDonald's or Coco Ichiban, and or just whatever. And so Molly is a person to whom speaking is very easy. And I imagine that will still be the same. Well, it's neat to see that this SteamerYard seems to be working pretty good. What's more is that it should be displaying on Facebook. Are any of you out there, let me check the comments, I keep forgetting to do that. Are any of you out there watching this from Facebook? Freestyle Chat, and Mr. V says, good evening. So let me know if you're watching from Facebook. That would be interesting to see if that is working. So what's also interesting is that I'm doing this from my iPhone using SteamerYard. I think SteamerYard is really made for the computer, where you can then have like a stream of videos and stuff like that. So I can't do that. At least I haven't figured out how to do that. But this seems to be working. So anyway, so I thought the topic of tonight's video, oh, and I might get kicked out. It's after hours because of COVID here in the pool area. We're supposed to close down the pool around 6:30, and I think it's about 9. So the security guards patrol the apartment building, and if they spot me over here, they'll come through and roust me out. So just be forewarned. So 2 questions. Let's see if I can see the chat. 2 questions. 1, how's the audio? Is it coming through all right? And 2, is there anybody out there from Facebook that's seeing this? You are, Sarah, you're watching this from Facebook. So that means it works. So this steamer yard allows me to stream from my phone to my YouTube channel, simultaneously also to Facebook. And I'm also streaming on Twitch, which I set up a Twitch account just for that purpose. So I'm steaming to 3 different platforms. And Jeremy says, howdy, Kurt. Howdy, audio is good. Thank you. And John, hey, John, up here, another LA person. Audio is good. And Short Kid, audio is good. And Taco Maniac, 444, hi. Hi, Taco Maniac. And you say, how's it going? It's going well, especially because I had a margarita. So it's become a new family tradition. Excuse me. We call them slutty margaritas. About a week ago or so, I got the idea of making margaritas. So I went out and I got some margarita mixture and some tequila, and we got some ice, and I put it in the blender, and I made it up for the family, and I handed it out, and we all really loved it. Now my girls, Yumiko and Emily, they can't drink too much, so it's mostly on me. I'm a little tipsy because I had a margarita, and they can't drink theirs, so I had to drink a little of theirs. But anyway, Yumiko likes it. The first batch I made, it was kind of loose. And then later I made it again, and it was a little more slushy, she called it. But I heard her wrong, and I thought she said slutty. So ever since then, the margaritas I make are called slutty margaritas. So we had slutty margaritas tonight. I made enough for the family. Emily's almost 20, so that's close enough, right? So she and Emily drink these little glasses, and I get a slightly bigger glass, and we have a good time. So yeah, I had a nice evening. Retired drinking on the bench, awesome. Yeah, well, not retired yet. I got a few more years to go. So there's that. Oh, tonight's the first night that Emily is completely back. She moved herself out of her. Oh, I could do that. I wonder if I can do that. I could show you. I think I can show pictures superimpose them. And there's Shizuoka Blues, my old friend Rob. Hi, Rob. Audio's good. Good to hear, Rob. How you doing over there? What is it? It must be. What time is it in Japan, Rob? I don't know. I'm not very good at looking at these comments, but I can click on them and they will appear on the screen. So the GTA Alcoholic says, do you miss Japan? And would you move back if you could, or stay in the United States? Wow, great, getting straight to the point, the GTA Alcoholic. Great question. I want to answer your question very honestly. There are days that I wish that I could wrap things up here and go back to Japan. Not because I'm fed up with America, just like I was not fed up with Japan, although sometimes it did feel like that when I was living there, but more or less because I'm restless for another adventure and a new life. And Yumiko and I, this is our 4th time in 33 years together. Is that right? 1980, 87, 1990, 2000, 2010. Yeah, 33 years together. This is our 4th time across the Pacific. It makes sense to go across the Pacific because we're always in the bosom of some family, or we're participating in some family. So I could go back. I genuinely do miss Japan. I miss the depth of culture there. America is very rich in, dare I say, superfluous pleasures. It's like watching a television with 300 channels on it, right? There's always something you can So you just keep on turning. There's always something you find to do it. Japan is like having how would you describe it? It's like reading a really deep novel that just layers unfold after layers unfold. For me, the trick was when I was living in Japan, I wasn't very challenged by my job, and I like being challenged by my job. Now I'm more challenged by my job than I need to be. Right, my job really challenges me. So there's that. Let me catch up on some comments here. Shizuoka Blues lunchtime. Oh, it's lunchtime in Japan. All right. Are you at work? Are you at work, Rob? A model family. Yes. Slutty margaritas. Right. They're a model family. Hey, my man. Lunchtime. Experience tranquility. Interesting, Cloud S. I'm gonna click on your comment. Experience tranquility. That's actually what the title of this video was. In or out. I'll talk about that. And then Taco Maniac does an up sign. What does that mean? Monica Monari says hi. Hi there to you. Well, this is fun. I can actually, put people's comments up. Scrawled says your Japan videos were awesome. Thank you. DRT Maverick. America has a young culture where the culture itself isn't as well established and deep. Ain't that the truth? My gosh. All I just do is watch my wife, who just, she's Japanese through and through. And I don't want to be, I don't want to label cultures in a particular way, right? I mean, deep or shallow or whatever. Humans are humans, and we vary in our relative depth and shallowness in many ways. And some people are shallow in some ways and deep in others, like vice versa, right? But I think my wife really represents well, the stereotypical, the archetypal Japanese in being very deep without without trying. My wife has very little interest in such things, yet she displays a level of cultural wisdom that is profound and astonishing at times, even though she doesn't care to think about it. It's just there. And Shizuoka Blue says yes. Patricia Reynolds. Wow. Hi, Pat. You're always up to a challenge, Kurt. How you doing, Pat? Long time no see. Pat, it's for those of you who don't know, I have Pat is someone I respect greatly, admire, and also thank you for you're one of the persons that helped me to come to America. Thank you for that. And Pat, I'm off to a new world. I'm working with the city of Ventura now, and it's upping the challenge, right? So thank you for your model and example to me. I do appreciate that, and I wish you all the best. I hope all is well. Shizuoka Blues. Having a lunch break, and it's good to catch up with you a little. Oh, thank you, Rob. Are you at the university today, Rob? Taco Maniac 44. I have 2 questions for you. Yes, sir, or madam. Taco Maniac 44. Your questions. Go ahead and tell me your questions, and I'll pop them up on the screen. Streaming on Twitch. Yes, I'm on Twitch. Well, I think I'm on Twitch. I set up a Twitch account. I told this steamer yard to stream to Twitch, and it should be Twitch streaming to Twitch as we go. I'm great. Pat says, I'm great. Retirement is the best. Is it? Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. Hope to join you in six or odd years in that experience. But I have more challenges to take on here. I'm really lucky, Pat. I've saddled. How do you say? I've hitched my wagon to an executive that I actually met. I don't want to give away too much about my work stuff, but I think I can say this comfortably. An executive from the county who enlisted me to come join him in Ventura, and I'm learning daily, literally learning daily about how to be a better employee, a better leader, and a better worker. And again, thank you, because you were instrumental in helping me to get here to begin that process. Shizuoka Blue says yes. Oh, great. How's the view out the window? Rob? Okay, Monari says, America seems to be broken into many subcultures. Not in a negative way, though. More of interesting and expanding. Monari, I remember one of my professors in college describing America as less of a melting pot and more of a tossed salad. I thought that kind of talked about what you're talking about there a little bit as well. Covers that. Hope you come here and visit eventually. I was going to come. My family and I were going to come off this New Year's, Rob, for the all-important New Year's in Japan. But of course, COVID changed things. Youngie says, how's Cali this time of year, Kurt? It is beautiful. I swear to goodness. Pat will represent for me because she's just up the road a little bit from me here. It is just absolutely stunning. Bathwater, nice this evening. As I was walking out here to make this start this video, I was just commenting to myself, no, this is not normal. It's winding down. It's a little hotter than usual, but it's very nice. You continue. All is going well. I should be visiting LA this coming June from the UK. Fingers crossed the world returns to some normality then. Wonderful, Youngie. When you come on by, if you're free and you're willing and interested, let me know. Let's get together and have a pint. Pat says thumbs up. Awesome to you. So the topic, in or out, which is the title of this video. Those of you on Facebook may not know because I don't post as many videos. Now that I have this ability to do this here, you'll get a little more. I do this a lot. I make videos practically every night now. After dinner, after a margarita, a slutty margarita with my family. It was my wife's idea. Let's call them slutty margaritas, by the way. Oh no, it was my idea. She called it slushy. I changed it to, I've misinterpreted it as slutty. Anyway, the point is, I've been portraying since about a year out. I've stopped with so much of the desert madness, right? Going out on my motorcycle and spending a raving 24 to 48 hours under a desert bridge with rattlesnakes and scorpions and lizards and the like, writing mad poetry and hiking out into the middle of nowhere and all that madness, that you're all familiar with if you follow my channels. And my videos have of late been more sedate, civilized, and toned down to that regard. That's because the conclusion of Going Alone, my book, I do have a copy here. And by the way, I was at Whole Foods this evening, and when I came out, there was a guy standing around taking pictures of my bike. And turns out and he had questions, and he asked me, where do you go? What do you do? Where do you take this bike? And I said, I've got a book for you. So I gave him a copy of Going Alone. I always keep a copy in the tank bag for anybody, because that happens. You come out and people are like looking around the bike. It is kind of an attention getter. And I said, read this. This is what I do, right? So anyway, my videos have been a lot more sedate because so Going Alone is all about going out to places like this, all by yourself, and encountering the universe one-on-one, and realizing the stark, utter emptiness, dare I say, the terror of realizing just how alone we really are in the universe, and that we just have one another. And then the punchline is to come back. There's a chapter in here called The Good Life, which is to come back and say, okay, I'm going to build a life of principle and objectives, and try to live a life of courage, joy, and independence, seeking connections with family and community and the like, right? So the last year has been really focused on that. So now, guess what? And I'm sorry, I know I'm not paying attention to the comments. I'll get to that in just a second. So it's almost desert season. This particular summer was so darn hot. It was really impossible. I did go out in June once, and I nearly died. Plus, my new job is really taking a lot out of me in terms of requiring a lot of my energy and time, and I'm trying to focus wholeheartedly on that job. I want to do a good job. I want the projects I'm working on to succeed for the city. And I really need to focus. But I think I'm kind of at the point now where I can start to, if the desert is available, I might go back. And guess what? Mid-October, late October is desert season, right? So that's the question, in or out? In or out? Now you might say, no, out or stay or go, right? Why in or out? I'll answer that in just a second, but let's go through a couple of questions here. Pat says, there's the thumbs up. Benjamin, madness of going alone. It's funny that let me highlight your comment there. It's funny that you say that, Benjamin. Someone's been on my mind. I don't know if you followed my videos. I think it was in June or May when I met the Desert Father. I don't remember. You guys remember that? I was riding out to Siberia, and I passed something. It was like a lone, I don't know, dilapidated home or something like that. And there was a man sitting in the shade. It was like 104 degrees. And I thought, man, he must be dying. So I spun the bike around and came back, and I had water, and I offered it to him. Turns out he was a man walking across the desert alone. He had no provisions, no backpack, no water. He had just a bag with a blanket in there. I think that's what he had, a blanket. Walking across the desert with a blanket, and thought he was going to die. I actually called 911 and said, there's a man out in the desert. Well, anyway, so then I asked them. I said, should I go see him? What should I do? The 911 operator said, sure, go ahead and see him if you want to, if you feel safe, because I wasn't sure. So I went, I swung up and saw him, and we had an interesting conversation. It turns out this is what he does. He goes back and forth between, I think, North Carolina and California. He walks the whole way. It's like Forrest Gump. He walks across America, across to one end, and then he turns around and he walks back to the other end, and then he turns around and he walks back to the other end. And he happened to be crossing the desert in May or June in 105 degrees heat. He had no water, so I gave him all the bottled water that I had. And the thing struck me about him, and I wish I'd spent more time talking to him, was how he had somehow was managing to keep he seemed to be sane. But I mean, some sanity is going to be lost in that circumstance. But I don't know what if the place that you go is insane or less, or perhaps something more real than anything that you and I know. Anyway, how did he keep that in spite of the emptiness, the lack of distraction? He had nothing. He had nothing to distract him. He had no cell phone. He had no book. He had nothing. I asked him where he slept. He said he just sleeps wherever he can. He has his little blanket to keep him warm if the chill in the deep in the night. Anyway, I called him a desert father, and I made a video called Meeting the Desert Father. So your question of madness of going alone, exactly, right? That's the risk. That's the danger of continuing this quest into places like this alone, is that you can go so far that you become like that desert father that is so distant and so in somewhere else that you may not be able to relate to anybody else. And I definitely sense that. I don't think I came close to that in my own journey, but I definitely sensed it. And that's why I wrote The Good Life, which is my own siren call back to the real world, back to my family, back to the mission of my job, the purpose of being a constructive member of society. All of it makes life so deep and rich and meaningful, in spite of the deep emptiness up there, in the silence of the quiet night. So your question is very apt. In or out? It's desert time. Should I turn and go get back on the bike and go deeper into the desert and face that depth, face that emptiness once again? And to what end? I already know what's out there or what's not out there. And I've already answered the question. But is it possible to be like the desert father and like desert fathers before, desert mothers maybe even, and face down that awful emptiness and find still greater treasures deeper within? Or is the risk of becoming lost along the way too great? Good question, if I do say so myself. So in or out? The out, of course, being remaining outside of that deep emptiness, remaining focused on job and family and the like. So I'm trying to balance the two. I don't think it has to be an absolute either way. My family's fine. I mean, I've been doing this for decades, right? This every 2 weeks going out into the wilderness on my own. So my family's fine with that. They're all right. But am I pushing the envelope too far? It's a question for myself. Let's continue the comments. DRT Maverick, your bike is a damn cool and set up well. Thank you. I do like the GSA. You know, I never named this bike. I've given all my motorcycles names in the past, but this bike never got a name. Pat says, I remember seeing your bike in the parking lot of RCIT. It was loaded up. I knew you were headed out. Yeah. It was, well, Pat, that was because when my daughter, when my daughter got her driver's license, I gave her my car. So I didn't have anything but the motorcycle. And because I live in an apartment building and we have absolutely no space, I actually literally had to keep all the gear on the bike all the time. So it's always ready to go. So it may have looked like it was ready to go, but my routine was always, how, Pat, of course, we have every other Friday off. The Thursday night before the Friday off, I would go straight from RCIT or DPSS in the DPSS days, straight out to the desert. So my family, my wife and daughter work and school on Friday, so they wouldn't see me that night, but I would be back by Friday night in time. So it was, for me, it was 24 plus hours, or about 24 hours in the desert. But to my family, they basically just missed me that night. So, which meant they could watch anything they want on TV, which they can anyway. It's all HD TV. A Patio 87, there's a name that I know from a long time ago. Love the desert exploration videos. I'm glad. So I'm glad, Patio. Maybe I'll keep it up. Yeah. What about the desert madness videos? Yeah, what do you think of that? Hello, Kurt from New Jersey. NG. Is that New Jersey? All right. Hi, Tanny. You're a new name. It's good to see your name. Sir Benjamin. Wow, interesting guy in the desert. Yeah, I really wish that I had spoken with him more. He seemed quite willing to talk. I'm sure he's got some interesting stories. Wes Norman did a name I've known for a long time. Going deeper into the desert serve any purpose or this other way to achieve what you want. Wait. Does going deeper into the desert serve any purpose, so you're asking, are there other ways to achieve what I want? What I want to achieve in going to the desert, which I didn't know when I first set out, was to encounter this nothing that I call the Great Indifference. And I don't know how to encounter the Great Indifference anywhere else. It's too hard, because anywhere you are where there's life around you, right? I mean, this is an awful place to see the Great Indifference. I mean, the signs of life everywhere, or the artifacts of life are everywhere. So I can't encounter it here. You can't encounter it at the beach. There's just too many seagulls flying around, and porpoises and seaweed and hermit crabs and all that stuff. But you go out into the desert, particularly the East Mojave, where I go, north of Siberia Ghost Town. It's a moonscape out there. It's like Mars. Get out there, get over the edge of deep water, down into the deep water wilderness, and you are literally like on another planet, and there's very little life. And then when you realize that you're really alone, and that the universe is empty, and it doesn't seem to give a damn whether you live or die, but you're blessed with having family and friends and fellow species and pets that love you, and isn't that a wonderful thing? I come back with an appreciation that is deeper and richer than anything that I could have ever known before. Dare I say, I'm speaking for myself, I might almost take my family for granted, other than the fact of going out and experiencing the Great Indifference. And I come back, and the first thing I want to do is give them a big bear hug and make them a slutty margarita. A.B. Ducky, on the topic of your work, how do you deal with the challenge of doing things that are new to you? That is a really neat question, A.B. Ducky. First of all, I've been very fortunate to have bosses and bosses, wink, 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 Pat, that were and are very patient with me. I tend to always find myself in life in areas where I'm challenged with new things. And I'm lucky that I have people that are patient with me. I think that they're largely patient with me because I think that they sense that my intentions are good, that I'm trying. I'm not just trying to bide my time and bring home a paycheck. I really want to make good use of my time, and I want to be useful to my employer and make the world even a slightly better place for my being here. So that's one thing. I'm lucky that I have people that are patient with me. Two, when I don't encounter something that I understand, typically the first thing that I'll do, especially in my current situation, is I ask people that know. Now, I try not to be too much of a pest, but I'm really lucky right now. And again, I'm in danger of talking too much about my work. I'm really lucky right now that the person that I work for is both incredibly knowledgeable and incredibly good at what he does, and very willing. I'm lucky that I get to meet with him every single morning, and he's very willing to help me with anything. So I ask his advice, and usually he'll give me some good suggestions, and then he'll give me some references to resources that I can find information. That also, in addition, Google is your friend, and I'm really lucky. I work in IT. There's resources like LinkedIn Learning, and I'm really, really lucky that I have access to something called Gartner services, which is IT professional research that I use. So I'm able to use between LinkedIn Learning, Gartner research, asking people who know better than me or smarter than me, including my boss, and I manage to muddle my way through. And you know what I do when I don't really, when none of those things work and I can't really find an answer? I just give it the old college try, and I use 56 years of experience, and I just try to come up with something to try, and usually that seems to work too. It's amazing how often even the people around you have no better clue than you do, and your idea might be a good one. Sir Benjamin, did you ever own a silver mine in the desert? That's the second time someone's asked me this week. I think you might be referring to the fact that about a year or so ago, I was talking about starting a mine for, not for silver, but for hematite, which is a type of very pure iron ore. I did find a beautiful hematite deposit out in the desert, and I went to the Bureau of Land Management and I asked them about it, and they laid out the pathway for me. I could indeed make a claim for hematite, but I just never did it. Until You Collapse, what a name. The far north taiga, isn't that the forest in Russia? Isn't that what they call the boreal forest? What do they call it in there's a special name for it. It circumnavigates the entire globe at that latitude, right? All the way through Canada. But I think the taiga is the Russian name for the Great Forest. There's another word for it. The far north taiga has a similar feel, even though you're surrounded by trees. I've just touched the edge of the taiga in Minnesota, at the very northern edge up there. I can just imagine, especially when you get further past into the tundra. IOOI. Dobry Wizkerker. What is that? Is that another language? Cool. Monari says, I'm currently working on learning new skills that are very perpendicular to my current skill set and are just trying to keep up motivation. Do you have any advice? Okay, you're working on skills that are perpendicular to your current skill set. Keep up motivation. Okay, so you're not asking about the skills themselves, but how to keep up motivation. Yeah, I'll offer you something that motivates me. You might find it depressing. A lot of people do. It's frankly, I don't know why so many people find it depressing. But how about thinking about death? Okay, that's what I do a lot. You may have heard me say in the past that 20 summers left, and then I'm gone. And one of the principles in my book is the principle of complete oblivion, which basically means that after death, there will be no. I think there will be no final reunion, with the people we left behind, no final reconciliation with people that we left on sour terms with or who left before us, and no final justice. We have to seek out those things in the here and now. So my motivation comes from the fact that the clock is ticking. I'm going to be dead very, very soon, and that means oblivion for me, or perhaps hell. In either case, there's no time to lose. I better get busy making my best life and pushing the envelope as best I can. So maybe that would motivate you. It's interesting. Most people seem to find the talk of death as depressing, which is interesting. I don't know why. I don't know why. Interesting. I mean, it's like before you were born. I mean, the nothing that was there, right? Noah, do you think you would need to encounter the great indifference if you weren't born and living in modernity? Do you think? Interesting. The tone of your question is not the tone, but I want to make sure I get the right nuance of this. Do you think you would need to encounter the great difference if you weren't born living in modernity? I think that anytime that we're surrounded by our fellow humans and our pets and all of the distractions of life, where we can't see the great indifference. I think that's why we distract ourselves so much. So I think that in any time in human history, even when we had just a small tribe of people, 30 odd people that were our thing, we had the same thing. I think it was those who decided to tell the group, okay, nice, you guys all hang out in the campfire a little bit. I'm going to go out and take a leak. And they went up over the rise, and then over another rise, and over another rise, and then they got out there and looked up at the stars and listened to the quiet and the emptiness and heard the wind howl, and they went, holy crap. And those are the ones that touched or sensed the great indifference. So I think you don't need modernity, although modernity certainly robs us of most ability to see it. I certainly did not see it in Japan. As remote and as absolute as the wilderness is out there and dangerous as the wilderness is, it's the fecundity of the Japanese rainforests was just too much life to see the emptiness. There's a nice Japanese name. Been your viewer since I was in high school. I'm 23 now. I'm glad you're still on YouTube. Wonderful. Wow. So many of you who fill that demographic who seem to have found me in your teens and in your now in your 20s. If you would like, and someone just went to the website from Avon, Connecticut. Welcome. If you, my friend, would like a free copy of Going Alone, please send me an email to dinnerbytheriver@gmail.com. I don't know why I use that funny email address. Softypapa@gmail.com will get there too. Just send me an email with your mailing address anywhere in the world, and I will gladly send you a copy of this book. I wrote this book for your demographic in particular, for young adults, fresh into the world, looking out at the world and wondering and feeling some instinct that I want some longing for adventure, but not so sure about what they're going to do with that. I wrote it for you for that very reason. And the offer to have a free copy of the book is open to anybody at all. Anyone can send me an email, although I've got a long list of people to send to, and I'm running behind, so it may take a couple of months for me to get to you. Um, Other than Japan and the United States, what country has been your favorite to visit, either for the culture, food, sites, etc.? Good question. I haven't been to a lot of places, but I would say I'm absolutely dumbstruck with the Netherlands, the culture of the Netherlands, and the beauty of, and particularly Amsterdam, the beauty of the city, the people themselves. I found London likewise to be like that. I also other places I visited in England, Australia. If I had found Australia when I was 21 or 22, I would have come back. Australia, those folks really, especially down in Victoria, which is really the only place I've ever been. They really know how to live. I found the people of Spain to be very what's the world? Cosmopolitan, very, very, very rich in a sense of what it meant to really live. The people of France, of course, very, very French, in all the best ways. Uh, Sweden, Switzerland. I found Switzerland to be a very nice place. Basically, every place. I fall in love with every place I've ever been. I have been to uh, Singapore and the country just above it. I can't remember. Interesting places too. Keep your eyes on the fry. What fry? What fry are you talking about? Hence K2. Hence K2. I know the meaning of your name, even because you've written to me. Thank you. Good evening, Kurt. I saw an Isaac Asimov interview recently. It made me think of you. I wonder if you and I saw the same one. I saw an Isaac Asimov interview recently as well. It was they were asking him questions about who was it that was interviewing him. They were asking him questions. I wonder if you and I saw the same thing. If YouTube was promoting that, very interesting interview. I wish I could remember all this stuff. He was talking about the times and the future and interesting perspectives. Wumberto Biaggi. And there's a couple of questions from you, Wumberto, I think, that you have for Emily that I haven't asked her, that I haven't responded to on YouTube, that I will. Some Buddhist monks meditate while looking at dead bodies to remind themselves that time is limited. Perhaps not an activity you could partake in while in the West, though. I did find those human bones out in the desert. That was kind of like that. Wumberto, are you familiar with the concept of memento mori, which I believe was a European tradition of creating little emblems, little carvings, and little statuettes that reminders of the dead, rings and the like, that people, I think it was in the Victorian era and before, would keep these as reminders of death. And it is, in fact, my number one, the very first objective in going alone is to be always ready to die. I dwell on it every day. I try to remind myself that death is imminent, even if I'm still going to be around for decades. It is nevertheless imminent, and it's very sobering. Jaden. Hello, Kurt. Hey, Jaden. Nice to see you. Short kid. Me too. LOL. Noah Brown. I also started watching you in high school. I emailed you once asking about responsibility and following the path of the first inclination. You gave a great reply 7 years ago. No kidding. So Noah, I would love to know, what did you do? And the path of your first inclination is the principle in the book that I call the path of wildness. In fact, there's a whole chapter called the path of wildness. That's the chapter that's the most esoteric. This book I wrote in stages of my life. It took me more than 5 years to write it. The Path of Wildness chapter I wrote actually in Japan, and it is a weird, weird chapter. So probably the stuff that I was talking to you about 7 years ago was while I was formulating the ideas and writing down some of the nuggets of concepts for the Path of Wildness, which is indeed the path of your first inclination. How does it go? Let's see if I can remember. It's in the book. It's a poem. The path of wildness is easy to find. The course of a stream, a beast, the course of a stream, a beast tracked through the brush. No. The path of wildness is easy to find. The course of a stream, leaves blown in the wind, a beast tracked through the brush, or the direction of your first inclination. So Noah, what did you do? What did you do with your first inclination? Can I purchase a book instead of having one sent for free? Yes, thank you so much for asking. Go to Amazon.com and you can buy both a paperback. It would be exactly this copy. This is what you would get. You buy this on Amazon. You can also get the ebook, right? I think the paperback copy is like $14 and the Kindle version is like $1. If they don't ship to your country, let me know and I ship to your country. Jaden, just had a couple of beers. Now I'm downing some pizza and watching you. Cheers, Kurt. Cheers to you, Jaden. That's awesome. Monari says, thank you. Thanks for the advice. I have always found your words thoughtful, and when I listened to them in undergrad, they would let me take stock of my own thoughts. Thank you, Monari. Are you finished with your studies now? I would love to know more about what stage of life you're in. What's new with you? By the way, feel free to write to me. I'm now that my daughter's all grown, I have more time to actually do that. I actually respond to email now. It's kind of fun, and I do these kinds of things too. I would love to know more about your journey, and if you want a copy of the book, let me know, Manari. Jaden, also a random fact about myself is that I'm a Native American. I can't quite pronounce that. Mkigmuk Native, based in Eastern Canada. No kidding. That's fascinating. What a wonderful thing to have that background, that deep, and I mean we all do, right? All human beings have some deep and rich background, but to actually know something about it. And Wumberto, yeah, that's right. People used to make rings from the hair of dead relatives. Also, some would have cabinets filled with things like skulls, etc. Interesting. What culture is it that there's a culture out there, I can't remember which one it is, that actually when the deceased die, they actually keep them around in the house. They'll prop them up at the dinner table and keep them put grandpa on the sofa. I don't know how they preserve them, but what they do. But that's just one of those little facts that came up, and I don't know where I got that. Maybe it was the Isaac Asimov interview. Noah, I wound up following the path of wildness. I took an internship in Tanzania instead of starting college. It was the right call. Look at you, Noah. You had a great life adventure. That is absolutely fascinating. That's wonderful. If I was wearing a hat, I'd tip my hat to you. You know, the concept of the great life adventure is some nugget of experience that it's almost like a grain of sand in an oyster, right? That can be difficult and annoying at first, but eventually it creates something beautiful and becomes the centerpiece of really a gem of your life. What I would love to know, Noah, is how have things fared since then? Did your time in Tanzania, did you find that as a distraction from your other things in life, or do you, like for me, spending, what is it, 15, 18 years in Japan left me in a position where I don't own a home. I don't have much security. The shirt on my back. I probably will never own a home unless I go to Japan and buy a farmhouse. And I never answered that question, did I? I'll come to that in just a second. But none of that matters to me because the rich depth of the diversity of the journey that life has been is just fills feel so much that anything outside of that seems superfluous. I mean, I would like to have a house. Maybe it's sour grapes, right? But but I wonder if that's the same for you, Noah. And I will answer the question before I read another comment. Would I go back to Japan? I do miss Japan. And there are times, and I think that maybe even when we retire, if Yumiko may not want to go back to Japan, but I wouldn't mind going back to Japan, getting a place in Shizuoka, and resuming what I did before with a fresh vision, fresh eyes, and a fresh perspective. Wouldn't that be fun? Avery, I'm currently studying for the MCAT and know that you hold a degree in biology. What were the reasons as to why you chose to pursue a different career path? Also, am 23 and have watched since 2012. Thank you, Avery, for the long support. Let me know if you want a copy of the book. I have an associate's degree in biology, and my bachelor's degree is in speech communication. I wanted to be a biologist, but it turns out that I don't have an aptitude for math. I tried really hard and I just couldn't get it. So I wound up changing my degree. I chose speech communication because my dad gave me, when I went off to college and I asked him, what should I study? He said, Kurt, if you can come away from college with two skills, you'll be in great shape. One is to be able to listen carefully to what other people say and to accurately understand what they're trying to tell you accurately as possible. And two, to be able to clearly communicate to others what you want to say and to be able to use analogy to help you. He says, if you can learn those two things, then whatever you do in life, you're going to be largely all right. So I chose speech communication. So with those two degrees, I left college qualified to talk to the animals. And it's only through the grace and goodwill of fine people like Pat that I've managed to have opportunities in life that I've been able to try my best to succeed. Thank you again, Pat. It is pronounced Mi'kmaq or Mi'kmaq. Definitely tricky to pronounce. I have heard that before. I didn't know how to pronounce that, but I have heard that before. Interesting. Is it a very large group? Frederick. Wow, Frederick. You're a name from back in the day. How are things over in Switzerland? Switzerland, right? Frederick, aren't you in Switzerland? Which city in Switzerland are you in? Hi, Kurt. Sitting here waiting for my newest video to upload. Did you happen to find a copy of the Leibniz-Clark debate? No, I didn't. Is it a YouTube video? Please send me a copy. I would like to watch it, Frederick. And it's good to see you. Hence K2. The Isaac Asimov interview I saw was with Richard Hefner. Sorry to keep you waiting for my next email. That's all right. Don't worry about it. These things, relationships and these are unfolding. And I know you've got a lot going on in life. Wamberto says, yeah, I saw a documentary about those mummies. They would be coated in clay and sat next to everybody around the fire. Can't remember which culture it was now. Bronze Age Europeans kept skulls too. Interesting. Death. So, I wonder why our culture in particular, speaking about Western culture, has such an aversion to it. Frederick, hi Kurt, sitting next to you waiting for, okay, that's the one I read. Noah. Since that adventure, things have gone well, but it was and has been more difficult to relate to my, I should just click on it so everyone can see. It has been, okay, read that again. Since that adventure, things have gone well, but it was and has been more difficult to relate to my peers. I travel a lot, at least before the pandemic. It's a lonely life, but a full one. Noah, may I suggest that there is a tribe that you are now a member of, which are the people who do what you do, or what you did, and what you may do. I found when I went to Japan that the community of foreigners in Japan are just such people, and it's a wonderful tribe to be a member of. And welcome, you're now among us, right? But you're right. Others that haven't done that may not actually know or relate to what you have to say, and it may be hard to find them where you are. But have you maybe considered going to a place where such people might stand out? Have you considered maybe Japan for a year, right? That's what the JVlog community was, right? The JVlog community was a community of people just like that. And they're a fun group of people. And I'll tell you, I do miss that. Monari, Yeah, I'm 29 now, and I'm in my field of study. Sorry, I'm 29 now, and I'm in my field of study. I still would like to live in Japan one day, but it's not a pressing need, maybe due to my more nagging need to learn new things about everything. It sounds like you've got your hands wonderfully full with wonderful things. Although, Monari, if you want to go to Japan, 29, watch out. You're at the cusp of things getting very, very busy, right? You're at that age where you might settle down and have children, and things become increasingly complex. Dreams become harder to realize once that's the case. So if there's any chance you can get out there and do it before then, that would be good. Jaden, yes, most of the reservations on the east coast of Canada is Mi'kmaq, right? Based mostly in Nova Scotia, reaching up as far as Ontario. Fascinating. And someone just went from the website from Germany. Welcome. Is that one of you? Wumberto, perhaps I want to linger on that, Jaden. Nova Scotia up into Ontario. Fascinating region. Wow. That be were your tribal cultures, and I hope I'm using the right word, were they disturbed much by the Europeans, or have you guys maintained, some? I'm trying to pick my words carefully. Some integrity or some intactness, right? I don't know much about the Canadian side of things. I know that here in America, pretty sad way of things. Humberto, perhaps the aversion has something to do with Christianity and the idea that relative spirits go off to somewhere else. Do you think so? Interesting. I found in Japanese kind of felt the same way, but maybe that's the Western influence. Or do you think that the because of the thoughts of a dark, well, I think most cultures have some sort of thoughts of a dark side, right? Demons and the like. But I would have also thought that with Christianity, if you've got the idea that there's a wonderful place that the departed go to, isn't that a wonderful thing? That wouldn't death be seen as more of a transition into something wonderful? I don't know. Jaden, I'd love to go to Japan, but I have absolutely zero knowledge of the Japanese language. If that's your excuse, Jaden, knock that off. You don't need to speak, and I hope you don't. I hope you take that the right way, right? I'm being. I don't mean to be patronizing or mean, but really, that's not a good excuse. Japan is one country, one non-English speaking country where that is not. You can get away without speaking English. Zero knowledge, you're just fine. Pick up a phrase book, learn a few things along the way. Get over there, you'll have the greatest time. I really is. It's a safe, wonderful country. Just go. I'm not hearing that there's any you want. I'm not hearing any reason. If that's the reason, just get over that and go. Right, Rob. If you're still out there, right, Rob. Rob's in Japan. He's been there forever, and he's someone who's mastered English, a Japanese. DRT Maverick, take care, Kurt. It was wonderful listening. I hope you do another live stream like this. Thank you. I think I will. DTRT Maverick, I have to go to bed. Good night. Thank you for joining me. I should go to bed too soon. Frederick, it's not a video, it's a written debate between Gottfried Leibniz and Newton's secretary Clark. It begins with Leibniz ridiculing Newton for his belief of the universe is winding down like a clock. That would be interesting. I didn't know that Newton held that belief. Englandese, welcome. Currently at work on Japan on my lunch break. Great to catch up. Great to catch a softy live. Awesome. Frederick, in other words, entropy. So he was criticizing him for the concept for believing that we're headed towards heat death. Although I'm sure he didn't use that language, or did he even use the word entropy? I wonder. I'm in Bangor, Maine. Frederick. Oh, of course, Frederick. I'm confusing you with the other Frederick. Your Frederick used to live here in California. I'm glad you're doing good, right? And weren't you up in Yosemite for a while? Yeah, there he goes. I used to be up in Yosemite National Park, right? I remember when you were up there. Hence K2, when you lived in Japan, besides your JVlog friends, were you able to establish Japanese friends as well? Just a few, not really. If I went back, I would change that. For example, I would get a job, kind of like what Molly did. There I would be with working with Japanese people, speaking the language and making Japanese friends. I would really like to do that. Jaden, haha, don't worry, Kurt. You're so right. I've been saving for quite a few years now for Japan and any trip in general, but I'll do as you say and try it out. Can't hurt to try. Let me know if you have questions about any places to go, although I think you'll find that anywhere you go will be a wonderful adventure. And with that, I think that's the last comment. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you all for joining me. Oh, there's another comment. I have English says, I have 2 good Japanese friends here myself, but I'm one of those I prefer my own company kind of people, so that's enough for me. I have 2 good Oh, yeah, that's right, because you're in Japan. So interesting. Humberto, there was that Japanese teacher you knew in the Toad video. He was great. You know, funny that you said that. Shimomura sensei. As soon as I was asked the question about Japanese friends, he was the first person that came to mind. I think he as close to. He was and is certainly a friend. I really admire Shimomura sensei. He's a wonderful guy. I wish that I had spent more time with him than I did. And if I go back to Japan, back to Shizuoka, I'm going to look him up. Good night, Kurt. Good night, Noah. Frederick. Good night. Good night, Frederick. Jaden. Thanks for the stream, Kurt. It was fun hanging out with you. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you, Humberto. Thanks, Kurt. Thank TTFN. And by the way, before I go, just to let you know, Molly and I are going to do an edition of The Bench on Saturday, 6 a.m. California time, 9 p.m. Japan time this Saturday. So it's scheduled. Molly and I, that's why I got this all set up, so that he and I could do that. So thank you all for joining me. You could tell he was great straight away. Yeah, he's a great guy. As you get older, do you notice yourself distancing yourself from friends, or is it the opposite? Oh, definitely distancing myself from friends. I really don't have too many friends anymore. Just my wife. She and I joke about it. How much what a pain in the butt it is to have friends. I don't mean it. If any of you out there, I don't mean it. It's just as you get older, you get tired. Oh, I'm not missing that. I cannot wait. Okay. Oh, glad you'll join. You're talking about the Molly thing. Yeah, a bit early for a drink on the bench. Yeah. I'm gonna be having a coffee for that one. Hence K2. Good night, Kurt, and everyone else. Thank you, Noah. We're your friends. Thank you. I think I've reached a point in my life when I can definitely. I'm ready for friends again. By proxy, friends by proxy. Oh. Okay. Well, you all have a great evening. Well, I'm going to bed. Talk to you later, and be safe. Oh, I can actually put the banner up, right? Here we go. There you go. Be safe, but not too safe. Good night. Now, how do I turn this off? I truly don't. Oh, there it is. There's an M button.